What you're seeing are 3 videos published by the Pentagon featuring 3 unidentified flying objects. These objects also appear to possess technology that is far more advanced than ours. They don't seem to have wings or exhaust outlets. They move at speeds significantly higher than our most advanced aircraft, and they seem to completely disregard our laws of physics. The alarming aspect of this is that one of the objects came face to face with an FA-18 pilot from the United States, while 3 other witnesses simultaneously observed it. Let me share the story of the Tic Tac incident over the waters of the Pacific today. On November 14th, 2004, something strange occurred between San Diego and Ensenada, Mexico, off the west coast of the United States. Approximately 100 kilometers out to sea, the United States military was preparing to conduct an exercise involving the Navy and the Marine Corps. The idea was that, as different branches, they would conduct joint training to understand how they operate and to better comprehend the limitations of each branch. In this case, they were scheduled to conduct a 2 versus 2 exercise, where the Marine Corps would utilize the Red Devil Squadron and act as the opposing force. The main character in this story is David Freiberg, one of the Navy pilots. The FA-18s used that day were 2-seaters, meaning that in each FA-18 there was 1 pilot and 1 weapons officer, totaling 4 individuals. However, Freiberg was one of the pilots and was in charge of the other 3. First, the Marine Corps' FA-18s took off, followed by the Navy's aircraft. But when the latter began to fly, they were informed that the training was being canceled due to the detection of something unusual, an unidentified object. They were informed over the radio that similar objects had been detected for about 2 weeks, but at that time, there were no fighter planes nearby to investigate. Therefore, in this instance, they were ordered to approach. The planes were directed by radio as they did not detect the object via radar. Ships have much more powerful radars than airplanes. The size limitation of an airplane's radar can be attributed to its location in the nose of the aircraft. Ships, on the other hand, do not have that limitation. The aircraft approached the designated area at an altitude of approximately 20,000 feet, when suddenly they observed the seawater beginning to form waves that broke, revealing the foam of those waves. That's why the pilots looked toward that area. Something similar to what can be seen in this video is being used here to help you understand what the pilots were observing. It was clearly perceptible that there was an object beneath the water, and they estimated that it was the size of a Boeing 737. The surprising thing is that upon looking a little more closely, it could be perceived that above that disturbed mass of water, there was a stationary aircraft at approximately 200 feet of altitude above the sea and about 12 meters long, roughly the size of an FA-18. The object was moving randomly and erratically in all directions, which caught the pilot's attention, as any aircraft has inertia to change direction. However, what they reported was that the movements were sudden. The 4 pilots initially thought it was a helicopter, but upon closer inspection, they didn't see the typical air trail over the water that helicopters usually leave. This seemed strange to them, and that's when they realized that the aircraft didn't even have a rotor. It didn't even have a tail rotor. It was a smooth, white cylindrical object. And that's why it's known as the Tic Tac, because its shape was exactly like that of these candies. Freiberg then decided to descend toward the object to investigate, as that was their original purpose for being there. Meanwhile, the other FA-18 remained at 20,000 feet, orbiting the area and observing from another angle. Freiberg began his descent in a spiral, and that's when suddenly the object changed its direction from one moment to the next, started to point its nose at him, and then also began to spiral upward as if it were chasing Freiberg's FA-18. But that's when he decided to make a radical turn and plot an interception course. The 2 aircrafts began to approach each other when suddenly the Tic Tac vanished. The first thing Freiberg and his companion did was ask the other FA-18 over the radio if they still saw it, but they didn't. They also lost sight of it. Freiberg then descended closer to the water to investigate the submerged mass they had seen. But nothing. They saw nothing. The water no longer had breaking waves. It was perfectly calm when suddenly, about 35 seconds after the Tic Tac disappeared in front of them, they were notified by ship telecommunications that it had been detected again by radar, but now 100 kilometers away from where they were. The strange thing, apart from the average speed at which the object should have moved of about 10,000 kilometers per hour to cover 100 kilometers in 35 seconds, is that the radar did not follow it to that point. It simply suddenly appeared. The two FA-18 aircraft flew to inspect the point, but upon arrival it had disappeared. They made several rounds, but to no avail. They landed and never heard about it again. I remind you that the 4 pilots were able to see the Tic Tac for about 5 minutes during the chase. It was not just a fleeting moment, and as the FA-18 aircraft separated, they could see it from different perspectives. From the next batch of FA-18 aircrafts that would take off from the aircraft carrier, one of them was equipped with cameras and sensors, which is why they also went out in search of it. To their surprise, they found it, and that is this video, which they have named FLIR. To clarify, the upcoming video is not from the story I just shared, it's from an FA-18 that departed minutes later and captured the footage. This video, like the other 2 that I'm going to show you, was officially published by the Pentagon in the year 2020. The videos show where the camera pointed, which may not align with the FA-18's orientation, as will be evident later. This camera is mounted beneath the plane and can rotate to focus anywhere. The infrared camera tracked it at the start of the video. Above it indicates the infrared mode. What you see in white is heat, and what you see in black is cold. This means that the object was hotter than the surrounding air. But notice, because this is the most interesting part, that no hot air outlet is visible, as would be seen from a plane or a helicopter. Suddenly it switched to TV mode to see if something different could be detected, but not much more was appreciated. The assistant who was handling the cameras was switching between TV mode and infrared mode to try to gather the most information, but pay attention to this. When the FA-18 follows an object with the cameras, the radar is also supposed to lock onto it, as if all the instruments were coupled. So when one of them focused on an object, the others would automatically do the same. However, on this occasion, the radar could not detect it, which can be appreciated by the 99.9 that appears on the screen. That is the distance to the object. When a 99.9 appears, it's an error indicating no detection and the maximum possible distance. This is because the Tic Tac was performing active jamming against the FA-18. Radars work by emitting a signal. This signal bounces off the object and is received again. Knowing the time it took for that signal to go and return, and knowing that radar electromagnetic waves travel at the speed of light, you can determine how far it is. However, in this case, the active jamming indicates that the Tic Tac was aware of the attempts to detect it via radar, and what it did was send electromagnetic signals to confuse the FA-18's radar, preventing its distance from being measured. Well, active jamming is considered an act of war. It's equivalent to firing a missile. At this moment, the Tic Tac was being tracked by the camera, but at the end of the video, we can see how the object moves to the left and disappears. But how fast was this movement? Well, much faster than you can imagine. The automatic camera guidance is designed to track targets and not lose sight of them in combat. And as you can see, the movement is much faster than the cameras, and that's why it gets lost. What this means is that it moves much faster than anything for which that camera could have been designed. After that, the Tic Tac wasn't heard from again until January 2014, about 10 years later, when the Navy detected something again, but this time on the US East Coast. Fortunately, there's also video of this encounter, although there are many similar sightings. However, it's not scientific to accept testimonials without more evidence, so I only focus on those with video. The video shows an object being tracked by a camera. Similarly, the object does not show signs of hot air exiting from an engine. And as you can see in the video, it starts to rotate in a strange way. But the most incredible thing about this video is what follows, so pay attention. "This is a fucking drone, bro," one of the pilots says. "There's a whole fleet of them." In the video, you can only see one because the camera can focus on only one of them. However, it is known that the radar was picking up about 5 or 6 aircraft around as if they were flying in formation. Very scary. In 2015, something strange was recorded again. It happened again on the US East Coast. In this case, you can see a very fast object, again without hot air exhaust or engines. John Radcliffe, who was the director of the National Intelligence Community of the United States, stated that the objects were making movements that are difficult to replicate and that we do not currently have the technology for it, or to fly at supersonic speeds without generating a sonic boom. In June of 2021, the United States National Intelligence Department released a preliminary study to the public on the different sightings since the year 2004. Up to 2021, it was affirmed that the vast majority of them were indeed physical objects, as they were recorded through multiple sensors such as radars, infrared cameras, normal cameras, and even visual sightings. Out of approximately 140 reports, 80 were detected by multiple sensors. But the reality is that the sensors used, despite having detected objects, were not designed with the purpose of identifying unidentified flying objects, and therefore all the desired information was not obtained. The report concludes with 5 potential explanations for the sightings. Objects like birds, hot air balloons, and related items. Atmospheric phenomena such as ice crystals, thermal air fluctuations, or similar occurrences, secret United States development programs, aircraft from other countries, and other possibilities. This is where we have what the vast majority of us imagine. Remarkably, the technology showcased in the videos, supported by multiple pilot testimonies, appears to point toward the final possibility. We humans do not have technology that allows us to fly without hot air output. All our powerful engines rely on combustion, so the videos cannot be explained by these engines. However, if we assume that the Tic Tac has gravitational propulsion, suddenly everything could be explained, but this would necessitate accepting that it is not something human-made, as we are hundreds of years away from achieving it. It is a propulsion method that we know would theoretically work, but we have absolutely no idea how something similar to what happened with rockets. Since the time of Newton, it was known that rockets would work, but it was not until several hundred years later that the first rocket could be manufactured. But wait a moment, because there is actually another way to explain the videos. Mike West is a computer engineer who, since the videos were leaked in the year 2017, has been looking for physical explanations for what can be seen in the 3 videos that I have shown you. I'll leave a link below to his channel if you want to see it in detail, because I'm just going to comment on it from a high level. However, apparently the signals seen in the first 2 videos could perfectly be a plane with its engines facing the camera. Look, for example, at how 2 FA-18s appear from a distance with their engines directed toward the camera, or even this aircraft. It's very similar to what is seen in the videos. The rotation of the unidentified flying object in the second video is not due to the object rotating, but rather the FA-18's camera rotating. The sudden movement to the left at the end of the first video can be explained as the object was moving to the left all along. And when switching between camera modes, it tries to track the object again. On several occasions, the camera briefly loses sight of it for milliseconds before picking it up again. At the end of the video, what happens is that it simply does not track it again. As for the speed of the third video, Mike West did the math, knowing the height at which the plane flies, the distance at which the object is concerning the plane, and the angle of the plane concerning the object. The surprising result is that the object is not moving, so it is probably a hot air balloon. The object appears to move quickly in the videos due to its perceived proximity to the sea, but it's actually at an altitude of 12,000 feet. When he does the math, the result is 12,000 feet of altitude, and the background appears to move so fast because it's the FA-18 that's moving quickly. It's something similar to what can be seen in this shot, where the background moves very fast but the balloon simply ascends. What is moving very fast is the camera. Anyway, I know that after how I've presented it throughout the video, it's going to be hard for this brief explanation to convince you that videos with a confidence level of 99.9% are not alien technologies. But what about the testimonies of the Tic Tac pilots? Regarding that, we really can't say anything since they are just that, testimonies, and we can't see with our own eyes what the pilots saw. But a small reflection. This Tic Tac story became extremely well known because there were official videos released by the Pentagon that reinforced the pilot's testimonies, but suddenly the videos stopped reinforcing the theory that the objects are not human. In fact, what they do is affirm that it is human, so the story loses all its strength and becomes just another testimony. And remember, you can never ever do science based on testimonies. The Pentagon's release of videos claiming to show unidentified flying objects doesn't necessarily mean they are extraterrestrial. This is just one of the many possibilities they offer in the document. I perfectly understand the disappointment you're probably experiencing. I went through the same process of believing wholeheartedly that what I was seeing was truly something extraterrestrial, to actually being quite convinced that it is not. And that's why I've made a video for my secondary channel providing my opinion on this topic, because what you've seen in this video is all objective, they are all facts. While the Tic Tac videos can ultimately be explained by our technology, let's not deceive ourselves about the story behind them. It is very strange that several people saw the same thing doing something very strange that was detected. The radar tracked it for weeks prior, which is quite odd. And that's why on my secondary channel I give my point of view on that topic. Thanks for watching, see you next time.